Everyone remembers the goals and the trophies. Almost nobody knows the version of Messi that his teammates actually fell in love with. If you have ever watched someone keep carrying a team long after the team stopped believing in itself, you already understand the weight this story carries. There is the side of Lionel Messi that only the men inside the locker room ever saw, the burden he carried for 20 years, and the quiet way he kept holding Argentina together while an entire country blamed him for every loss.
Messi delicately scrapes it under the crossbar. He's got a hat trick.
Again, the staggering genius of Lionel Messi.
Most fans love Messi for the magic, the goals, the free kicks, the way the ball seems to obey him. But his teammates love him for something else entirely. They love him because they watched what the rest of the country never fully saw. They love him because they watched what he went through, how he kept protecting them even while the entire country blamed him, and how he refused to let the shirt become heavier than the next generation could carry. That private side is what created the bond. And that bond is what eventually brought Argentina to the World Cup final in 2026. In 2007, Messi was 20 years old and already the youngest hope Argentina had. Brazil beat them 3-0 in the Copa America final, while he stood alone in the middle of the field as another team celebrated. 3 years later, Germany took them apart 4-0 and sent them home without a single goal. His own country decided he shrank when it mattered. Then came the night that left the deepest mark. In 2014, Argentina faced Germany again, and Messi was minutes away from the only prize that had ever truly mattered until Mario Götze scored in extra time. On his way to collect the runner-up medal, he walked right past the trophy, close enough to touch it, and could not even look at it. They handed him the golden ball, and he took it like the medal burned his hands. Chile took the next two Copa America finals on penalties. In 2016, at 29 years old, Messi stepped up for his kick and skied it over the bar. Still in his kit, he broke down and said the national team was finished for him. He quit. That was not a career move. That was a man who had tried and tried, while a whole country pointed at him and called him the reason they kept losing. They called him cold. They said he did not feel the shirt. They said he would never be Maradona. They hung every defeat around his neck, like he had played all 11 positions himself. What Messi went through in those years is the part most people still skip when they tell his story. In a country that treats soccer like religion, he became both the man they prayed to and the man they blamed. And then he came back. He came back knowing every future failure would land on his shoulders alone. The people who call any of this easy were never in those rooms. The weight he carried is the same weight that later made a generation of players decide they would never let him finish the story by himself. The reason his teammates feel such a deep bond with him did not begin with trophies. It began with a 15-year-old kid who had never met him. After that 2016 final, Enzo Fernández sat down and wrote Messi a message. He apologized on behalf of a country that had piled impossible pressure on one person. He told Messi to stay and play for fun again because when Messi had fun, the whole country had fun. He signed off with "Thank you and forgive us." Enzo was just a youth player at River Plate, writing to the poster on his wall. 6 years later, that same kid stood next to Messi in Qatar, lifted the World Cup, and was named the best young player of the tournament. When the letter came up again, he said if he wrote it today, one page would never be enough. He would need books. That letter was the first quiet sign that the next generation was watching the burden Messi carried and choosing to share it. Rodrigo De Paul lines up half a step behind Messi's right shoulder before every match, like a bodyguard who gave himself the job. Cuti Romero, Julian Alvarez, Lautaro Martínez. For most of their lives, Lionel Messi was a poster, not a person. Then, one day, the poster was standing across the training pitch, passing them the ball. The painful years changed the way they saw him. What Messi did behind the scenes to earn that loyalty happened after Argentina lost 2-0 to Brazil in the Copa America semifinal on the 3rd of July in 2019. Outside the dressing room, the old story still held. Messi was cold. He did not sing the anthem. He lacked the personality to lead. Diego Maradona had said it publicly. Then the door closed, and the captain stood up, Angel Di María later told what happened inside. Messi said he was proud of the group they had built. Many of them barely knew each other, yet it already felt like years. He said they had all pulled in the same direction from the first day. Then he looked at the younger players and told them they had earned the shirt. They belonged exactly where they were. By the time he finished, the entire room was crying. The kids, most of all. That is how he helped turn younger players into champions. He did not protect his own reputation on the worst night of the summer. He lifted them instead. The rest of the country still saw a quiet man who did not celebrate enough. His teammates saw a captain who chose them over himself. Once a man does that for you, his pain becomes yours. You can never again watch him suffer and simply stand there. The loyalty that later carried Argentina through every near elimination in 2026 was born in that silent room after another defeat. In the Copa America final against Colombia on the 14th of July in 2024, Messi rolled his ankle early, forced himself to continue, then went down again in the 66th minute with no one near him. He pulled the captain's armband off and handed it to Angel Di María on the final night of Di Maria's Argentina career. He limped to the bench, removed his boot, and stared at an ankle already swollen to twice its size. The cameras caught him burying his face and sobbing. The big screens did not show the tears to the crowd at first. The players on the field saw them immediately. Rodrigo De Paul later described the exact second. The whole team watched Messi crying, and something inside them shifted. They looked at each other and said they were winning this one for him. 40-plus minutes later, Lautaro Martínez scored the extra time winner. They did not win despite losing their captain. They won because they had seen him hurt and refused to let that be the ending. Two of the men who had carried the team through a decade of heartbreak stood on the same night. One is crying on the bench, one saying farewell on the field. The younger players won it for both of them. Loyalty like that does not appear on a night of triumph. It is forged on a night when everything is falling apart, and someone still chooses to stand up and speak. The man who once absorbed every defeat so the younger players could keep believing was now the one they refused to leave behind. Why his final years with the national team feel so personal became clear in Argentina's opening match of the 2026 World Cup against Algeria on the 16th of June in Kansas City. Messi scored early and immediately pulled his sweat-soaked shirt over his face to wipe away tears before the game had barely begun. He finished with a hat trick, his first in a World Cup. When asked about the tears, he refused every football explanation. It had nothing to do with the game. He had been through difficult, complicated days. He thanked his teammates for standing beside him and giving him the strength to get through it. Days later, the family confirmed Jorge Messi was under medical care and asked for privacy. The most decorated player of his generation was carrying a private storm into what everyone knew was his last tournament. The only people who truly saw the cost were the younger men who used to be the kids in that 2019 dressing room. For 20 years, Argentina handed Messi its heartbreak, so the rest of the country did not have to feel the full weight. He took the hit every time. He could have stayed retired in 2016. He could have coasted on club greatness. Instead, he kept returning to the one place that hurt him most until he dragged the entire thing over the line. On the 7th of July in 2026, the round of 16 match in Atlanta against Egypt became the night 20 years of silent carrying finally broke into the open. Messi missed a penalty, his second of the tournament, becoming the first player in World Cup history to miss two non-shootout penalties in a single edition. Egypt led 2-0 with less than 20 minutes left. Then, Romero headed in Messi's cross. 4 minutes later, Messi equalized. In stoppage time, Enzo headed the winner. Messi dropped to the grass in the center circle, face buried, shoulders heaving in ugly, unstoppable sobs. He later called it a release. Everything from the night left his body at once. The relief tangled with residual anger at the missed penalty. Lautaro reached him first and told him to enjoy it because he deserved it. Then he said the thing the whole squad carries in their bones. They would give everything for themselves, but more for Messi because it is his last World Cup and he has already given them so much. Enzo tried to speak into a microphone, called Messi their greatest example, and had to stop and apologize for getting emotional on live television. Scaloni stood nearby, wiping his own face. The players already call him the crybaby of the group, and he does not care. What Messi means to Argentina beyond goals and trophies is the quiet gravity that turned a room of scared kids into champions. When he finally walks away, Argentina will not only lose the greatest player most of them have ever seen. What Argentina will lose when Messi is gone is the man who stood in their worst nights and told them they belonged. They will lose the only person who absorbed 20 years of national heartbreak, so the next generation could grow up believing the shirt was still worth wearing. His teammates do not love him only because he is a great player. They love him because they saw what he went through, how he helped them when he could have protected himself, and how he kept carrying Argentina even when everyone blamed him. That is the side of Messi most fans never see, and that is why his final years with the national team feel so personal. For 20 years, he carried this country, and now, at the end, his brothers get to carry him all the way to the final. What does Messi mean to you beyond the goals? Tell me in the comments.